Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Director Wray. Good afternoon at this point. Before I begin, I just want to say thank you for the job that you do, and please pass on my thanks to the women and men who serve with you at the FBI. Their efforts are diligent, tireless, and too often thankless. So please let them know we appreciate their work. I have a couple lines of questions that I have for you. First, I'd like to ask you about an ongoing violent epidemic, an issue that's of critical importance to me and my home state of Arizona. As you may recall, the last time you testified before this committee, we discussed the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. It's a grim reality that Native American women are murdered at a rate 10 times the national average. And for Native American women, homicide is the third leading cause of death. The National Crime Information Center was reported approximately 1,500 missing Indigenous people, and Arizona tragically has the third highest number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in the country. Recently, Congress acted. We passed Savannah's Act, which directs the DOJ to review, revise, and develop protocols to address this crisis, and the Not Invisible Act, which coordinates intergovernmental efforts to combat this violence. There's a presidential task force addressing this crisis. Our former colleague, Secretary Deb Haaland, established the Missing and Murdered Unit at the Department of the Interior, and the FBI has directed to enhance its investigations into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. So as FBI Director, what specifically are you doing to seek justice for these victims? What are you doing to coordinate with other agencies? And what additional training and resources are you providing to your agents in Indian country?
So I appreciate the question. I do remember our exchange from the last time we testified, or last time I testified before this this committee on this subject. Certainly, as you mentioned, there is the task force that's specifically focused on missing and murdered American Indians and Alaskan Natives. Our primary vehicle to engage on this subject is through the FBI's Safe Trails task forces, which include not just FBI personnel, but partner personnel from other agencies, including tribal law enforcement. I think we have about 140, give or take, agents that I've dedicated specifically to those Safe Trails task forces. That number is actually probably almost double that now in a way, because as you may know, in Oklahoma, because of the Supreme Court's McGirt decision, the range of crime that's now considered Native American jurisdiction has dramatically expanded. So we've probably about 140 surged agents to deal with crime of the sort you're describing in that state. I also took the head of our FBI field office in Arizona, but also in New Mexico with me together, and met with the head of the Navajo Nation and spent some time with his leadership team and drove around Indian country to get a better sense of the challenges out there. And I'm told that I'm the first FBI director to ever go meet with them.
Thank you, Director, very much. I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk more about ransomware, a subject that other members have asked about. In this case, I want to talk specifically about the issue of ransomware attacks that threaten local governments and local infrastructure. Before serving in Congress, I served as a mayor of Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm particularly concerned about cyber criminals targeting our local governments. And in recent years, we've seen major U.S. cities like Atlanta and Baltimore hampered by ransomware attacks. So based upon the data and pattern of attacks the Bureau has identified, what local infrastructure facilities do you believe are most at risk of being targeted? And what can Congress and the FBI do to better support our local government officials?
Well, I'm not sure I could give you a specific type of local network that's most at risk, because it has less to do with the type of service they provide so much as it is with their own IT infrastructure and the vulnerability that it represents, combined with the perception that ransomware actors have that they would be a particularly easy to leverage target. But you are absolutely right that one of the trends we're particularly concerned about with ransomware is more sophisticated targeting of, for example, municipalities or in, say, states that are more rural hospitals and things like that, school systems as another example. And so we are trying to go after the ransomware actors through a variety of means. Our National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force leads a whole of government campaign that's prioritizing the most damaging variants of ransomware and going after the entire cyber criminal ecosystem. So by that I mean not just the people demanding the ransom, but the malware developers, the money launderers, the shady internet service providers. We're going after the actors, their helpers. We're going after the criminals' infrastructure. We're going after their cryptocurrency. So we're trying to engage in joint, sequenced operations designed to maximize the impact on the adversaries, and then we're trying to feed the information we get back and learn from those investigations in the form of intelligence that we share with potential victims. So in your example, local governments, municipalities, but also all the victims in the private sector, indicators of compromise and things like that, and then working with CISA over at the Department of Homeland Security to better help those victims protect themselves. But this is, I used the expression before, a team sport. This is a team sport where the team is not just government, federal government, not just, frankly, local government, but also, very importantly, the private sector in a whole variety of ways.